tax for December 7th. First item of business, motion to approve the minutes of the November 23rd, 2021 Oxy tax meeting. Motion by Supervisor Wild, second by Supervisor Stroud. Any discussion or changes? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next. Annual funding agreement. Somebody want to make that motion? Motion by Supervisor Wild, second by Supervisor Molino. Discussion. Supervisor Hogan.
Do we need to pass this today?
Yes.
Definitively.
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, briefly, just for the rest of the committee, there's a couple of us that did meet with the chamber and some of their board members. And I'm satisfied as we go forward that we're going to get some more information to be able to determine the value. I've spent time looking at the reports the way they've been presented so far. And Gina probably get together and work.
Okay. Any other question? Supervisor Bramer.
I did receive a call from a CBB member, and I was hopeful that I would have information in my packet showing the different CBB events that took place in 21. And it looks like there's some of that in here. Do we have people from the CBB here to give us a presentation or report on this year's activities?
Yeah, I think we do. If that's needed, I mean, is that needed?
I think so.
I thought we already had all that information. That information's been passed out.
When I presented the budget, back at the budget time, there was a marketing plan for the CDB as well as the Cool Arena, and all of that was presented as part of the budget process. There was an attachment with a handful of pages, but I don't have that as part of this agenda packet.
So may I ask a question?
Sure.
So I have concerns because it was my understanding for 2021 that we had an expectation of 50 events and 19,000 rooms booked. And I was wondering if anybody from the CVB would like to address the shortfall, because I think we did not meet either of those goals.
Okay. I believe Gina's here. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. So regarding what you had in front of you was up to the third quarter. So that third quarter packet would not have included October, November, December. So the year is not over yet. So as of October, we had already booked 24 events with 9,606 attendees, 13,950 room nights. So we've spent this last between late July and the end of October, actually until mid-November, at trade shows. So there's been a flurry of activity just in these last 2 months of business that now is ready to book, that we have talked with, that that we're confident that business is coming back in that regard. So whereas we do report to the Warren County Tourism Office Department on a monthly basis. So, and I'll work with Joanne on distributing monthly reports and with more of an executive summary and with that ROI, whether it's from advertising, from trade shows, and then to address Chairwoman Sieber had asked for after action reports. Well, we've put in the process in place, but we also need to know where those reports need to be sent and who gets them and who reads them. And because we felt that we want to make sure that what we're presenting, people understand so that there's not confusion as to what is ROI on things that we are presenting. So what I have right now is our most recent October report. We're preparing at the end of November. November just ended, that we will then present. We will distribute a November report probably by around the 14th of December. We'll have that done.
And is the expectation, do you mind a follow-up question?
Sure, please.
Is the expectation that in that last quarter, we're going to make up the shortfall on events and room nights?
I don't know that we'll get to the number of events, but I think we'll get to the number of room nights.
Okay.
Any other questions? Chairwoman?
Thank you. Gina, I appreciate that information. Back on June 30th of this year, you and I started the dialogue about the after action reports.
Mhm.
And yeah, we've sent a couple emails back and forth and really just a couple months ago, asked the county attorney's office to incorporate that into this next upcoming contract.
Yes.
But I did have a chance to speak with your chamber president, and I know in the past, you and I both just said you'd send them over to me as you got those after action reports. So it really was just for more of an informational purpose for the tourism department, for this committee, and for the board. I think we, in open session a while back, talked about some of the benefits from seeing the one from Stony Creek. And that Supervisor Thomas was then able to follow up in his community and address any concerns, and our tourism department also with that entity to make sure that we had those events coming back. That way it was a good private-public partnership. And I think that was in the spirit of which we asked for the after action reports. And it has been hard not being able to see some of those this year. But I'm happy to hear that you'll incorporate that. And I would ask our county attorney to please make sure that that's put into the contract moving forward. But those quarterly reports from January, I thought you were going to send those on to the committee members themselves and the tourism department. So it sounds like we've gotten quarterly reports. I certainly appreciate the efforts for the monthly. But again, I think it was last week when the tourism committee met, or maybe the week before, but had a good discussion about what was going on around the financial review that was done by the treasurer's office. I just want to publicly state what I put into an email to you and to our tourism chair, that I appreciate how cooperative the chamber has been, the detail that our treasurer's office put into it, and the outcome, which has been, I think, helpful for both the county and the CVB. So thank you for those efforts.
And just to comment on the after action reports. So we did go back to our business community so that they would be with us in actually filling out forms that told us what their numbers were actualized for their room nights, as well as attendees, maybe like the largest meal function, because that would be all fed into there. We were able with that blinker fluid to get that information from the event producer, but we weren't able to necessarily get every hotel property that realized room nights from that. So we're trying to marry those pieces, and it's just been a process to put that into place so that we could move forward on a regular automated basis. So I wanted to let you know that.
Okay. So I want to call the question unless there's any other questions for Gina. We have a motion, a second. Yes, Supervisor.
Just one more. As a partner with the county and spending $550,000 of county money, I do think it would be helpful to have, for the tourism committee members to have every month in our agenda packets, a little report. I know you send out the quarterlies and you're sending Joanne the monthlies, but something summarizing these events happened this month because we brought them in, and this is how many room nights. Just something really simple, high level review.
Appreciate it. I think they've already agreed to do that. So.
And actually, we've invited all of you to our monthly CVB meetings, where that is also part of that invite, and the follow-up to that. That's also been in an email on a monthly basis as well.
Okay.
All year.
So I'm going to call a question. All those in favor of approving the contract, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The only other thing I would like to do is I would like to work with the county attorney's office, see if we couldn't make this a longer, maybe a contract with a couple of extensions going forward in the future. So I'd like to work with them so they have some stability and they know that we're going to continue to work with CVB in the future. So that's one of the goals we'll set for 2022 to work on this. Thank you. Okay, discussion item. Review of the media strategy. Joanne?
Good afternoon. Thank you. There's been quite a bit of discussion lately about our media plan. In your agenda packet today, there's one sheet that outlines the media buy that our partners at Workshop have been implemented for November, December. And there's another document that is the plan we are considering today for January, February, March. There are several representatives from workshop with us today. I know the committee wanted to be more involved in this process and perhaps ask some questions. I know that the stakeholders also wanted to be involved, and I had a number of questions and concerns from that group, and I did forward them to the folks at workshop so that they could take that into consideration and answer any questions today. We do have with us from workshop Tim Kelleher, and to my left, Carolyn, and to her left, Ally. So they're here to present today. They do have a PowerPoint presentation in addition to the media plan that's in your packet, and certainly here to answer questions.
The only thing I would add, if we're going to do spreadsheets, we need to make them so we can read them. I mean, at my age, I can't even read them with my reading glasses on. So the numbers need to be a lot bigger for us to follow on. So in the future, if we can get something where it's usable. Thank you.
Electronic.
So somebody want to start?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
As far as formatting, we'd be happy to format in that in any way in 8.5 by 11, as we did for the November, December piece. I'd like to start out by just thanking everyone here for the invitation to come and speak. It's been 2 years since COVID interrupted our ability to come down here in person and present and answer questions. We at Workshop think it's invaluable for us to be here and show you our process and show you our thought and show you how we arrive at this media plan and how we execute the spend of your dollars. We at Workshop know that $1 million spend is significant, and it takes a very strong effort from us to execute that plan and be sensitive to all of the moving parts, season by season, interruption by interruption, border closing, border openings, and changes in the general landscape of paid media. We also, and I think I would just like to take a quick moment and just comment the fact that while everyone here, I wish that we had $1 million worth of income from this contract. Actually, we take a very small, less than 5% retainer to manage the $1 million. So I just wanted to put that in context. And this is quite honestly a great amount of work through the course of the year, which we really enjoy working in and have a long-standing relationship with the Lake George area and all of the regions and all the supervisors. That said, thank you again for having us here. We'd like to walk you through, we have a short presentation. We'd like to walk you through it. We'd share our process with you, share some results from November, December, and then share some reasoning. And if we can maybe enlarge on the screen some of this detail.
Yes.
And or maybe walk you through it as well. That was not on purpose to make it unreadable.
Well, it's $100,000 though, is what we're talking about.
That's what we're speaking about for winter, right? And we've again, as we explain our process, I think these spends do not just come out of the air. It's not only, it's with a great amount of work from Joanne's office and a great amount of work with us internally and us understanding what's going on in the market. So and I would welcome an invitation to come down here and present and speak to you at any time and share the work that's behind the actual spend. So without me speaking any longer, I'd like to turn it over to Carolyn and Ally and have you share our slide presentation, and afterwards, complete transparency, questions, comments. We don't know what you're thinking unless you share it with us. Happy to hear it. So thank you again.
I would just like to ask to see if we could have permission to share our screen.
Yep. I think you just have.
I'm unable to. It says host has disabled it.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, do you mind?
Sure.
One of the big things that I think about when I look at this is I have no idea whether we're successful or not, and whether how we can measure this from a metric.
So we have, I'm sorry.
Go. And then secondarily, the spots and impressions, I see one here on the November, December. And maybe that's how we measure, but I had some questions about whether those are actual placements or whether those are impressions, and to try to get that sense.
Right.
But if you could,
So,
thank you.
so we've come prepared in this presentation to show you the KPIs that we measure against this piece.
Mhm.
and that we're prepared to share with you today.
Okay.
All right. And then we will share with you what those placements, and again, we're so used to looking at these, we think there's no questions there, but feel free to, and we can fill in the blanks.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
This will work. So we can move on to the second and third slides. I also have the media plan on my computer that I was going to zoom into as well. Do you have that?
I think so.
It'll be later on, but wanted to make sure we could zoom in so everyone could see it.
Okay.
So we're going to start off today going a little bit over, what we have running right now, how things are doing to kind of address your question here. We come up with these reports every season, and they are always changeable. So every time we're in there every day, all the time, making sure that things are performing up to standard and above industry benchmarks. So at any time, we are able to adjust these media plans, and we are able to pivot based on what we're seeing, in general COVID-wise, as well as what we're seeing in terms of success and performance. Then we're going to kind of go into what we're thinking and our strategy for this winter 2022 in, the beginning of winter, the January through March, and then go through our meeting plan, what we're planning on for Canadian marketing, because that is ever evolving, and then kind of what the next steps look like after this. So this is a quick snapshot of our overall performance November 1st through December 3rd. So overall in paid social, we've had over 1.3 million impressions with just about 54,000 clicks and a CTR click-through rate of 4.10%. That is 356% above the Facebook ads, travel and hospitality tourism CTR benchmark. So we're well outperforming that. And our top themes so far are ice castles, lodging, and events. With native advertising, we've had just over 700,000 impressions, over 2,000 clicks, and a CTR of 0.31%, which is right on track with the industry benchmark at 0.30%. For retargeting, we retarget users who have visited the website recently within the past 30 days to help keep the Warren County brand top of mind. This is a much more brand awareness tactic and to help continue to serve impressions. And like I said, keep your brand top of mind. So we've had over 800,000 impressions with 886 clicks and a CTR of 0.11%. With Google Ads, we've had over 200,000 impressions, 56,000 interactions. That includes both interactions with clicks and video views, clicks, completions, etc. Since Google Ads also runs YouTube ads, and an interaction rate of 27%. So if we're just to look at the clicks for the search ads, that is well above the industry benchmarks as well. The industry benchmark for Google Ads for travel and tourism is 4.68%, and we're well over 9% for that. Any questions on how we're doing so far this year?
If I could just follow up, this is an interim report. As with every piece we do, we follow up with the full data, comprehensive of the full period, and that is always shared.
Yep. And here's a snapshot of our top performing ads so far during this winter campaign. So the top two, or the left two, are native advertising ads, and the right two are the paid social Facebook ads. Those also run on Instagram, as well as Facebook and Instagram stories, Messenger, and as well as through the entire Facebook network, with the majority of them being within Facebook and Instagram news feeds as you're scrolling. Any questions so far? Cool. So going into winter 2022, we have built some of our themes here based on what we've seen as success so far in this November-December campaign, as well as what we're seeing in trends in travel and tourism, as well as what Lake George area has to offer. So starting with the outdoor winter recreation, you have a lot of offerings here, including cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, downhill skiing, snowboarding, ice fishing, winter hikes, sledding and tubing, and snowmobiling. So that's a little bit of our focus there. This, especially outdoor recreation, has always been big for the Warren County, but especially right now in a post-COVID, still in COVID time period, continued outdoor recreation offerings are very big within the travel and tourism audience. followed by top attractions. You have a lot of things to do and places and things for people to see. So we're focusing in on ice bars, indoor activities, shopping and factory outlets, dining, museums and history, craft beverages, couples activities, free activities, and arts and museums. Arts and theaters, I apologize. Then followed by events. We always have some good events this winter. Exciting this year with the ice castles. That is very flexible as we kind of see how the ice castles evolve and impact the Lake George area this winter. So if things sell out and we're trying to kind of phase out of it a little bit, we can absolutely adjust that. Or if we're really trying to promote it, to use that as another opportunity to bring people to the area, we can bring that right up there. Just general events, winter carnival, and we'll start promoting the Maple weekends at the end of February, early March, which will run through all of March. Then, of course, the big question as well as people are looking to travel, where to stay. So we have some pieces in there focusing on lodging, towns to stay, where to stay based on what you're interested in and looking for in your winter travel destination.
Right. Ellie, if I could just add it and comment again on the point, all this stuff is what we go into the campaign with, and we're watching the performance of it, and it's very dynamic. If we're seeing something's working, something's not working, there's A/B testing, the assets are swapped out, the changes are done, again, always driving towards those KPIs. We look at those KPIs on a not always necessarily absolute daily, but on a weekly, twice a week basis. And if KPIs are falling, we look at performance of the ads being placed, performance of the digital assets, both the visual and the copy, and adjust. And that's what you're paying us for, not just placing these and letting them run for 3 months. So it is very dynamic.
Yeah. Great. So we will pull up now the media plan if you have that available.
I've got a question.
Yeah, Frank, go ahead, Frank.
What's considered an impression?
An impression is one time that your ad is shown. So you could be scrolling through a Facebook feed and an ad pops up. That's one impression. If you are loading a website and a banner ad's on the side, that's an impression. So every time an ad appears on a website.
A platform.
Yeah, a platform.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Going back, one of the statements you made about how dynamic the placements are. Warren County has many businesses that do their own advertising. So how do we make sure we're not overlapping? And what we're doing is actually leveraging what your organization is doing and the business community is doing to actually leverage our money to get even more.
Right. I'm being cautious just because we don't have that data. We don't know what all the different hoteliers, events, places, we don't know what they're doing. Again, funneling this through the tourism office, potentially it can be shared. Again, I don't want to speak for powers that we're submitting to, but potentially the way to help leverage those pieces is to share where we're headed with these dollars, and people can piggyback off of that, potentially. Again, I'm speaking a little bit above my pay grade because it's not determined by me. That's a start.
If it was your money, right?
If it was my money.
Yes. And you had this business community.
Yes. If I owned a hotel, I would follow this really closely. I would follow this because I would not have the dollars to place and get this exposure. And I would take my dollars and potentially double down on these efforts to leverage off of that. We can take that back and think of some other creative ways to help the individuals. Again, there are ways to do it, but we're not set up that way with Warren County, but we can take that feedback, come back with some ideas and funnel it through. But if I was a hotelier and I had or a business, I would follow this step by step and try to leverage whatever my efforts were doing to piggyback off of this bigger spend.
So they would need more detail than this though, right?
I think there's plenty of detail in the media plan.
Okay.
And then, we can share the assets. Again, it's all public. There's nothing, we're completely transparent, and Joanne's office is completely transparent. We just don't know what the asks are. And I guess that's why we're here. So we can take that thought back and together with Joanne's office, try to see where we can head with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
To piggyback a little bit off of what Tim said there, I think any sort of two-way back and forth sharing from us to you folks, as well as back towards workshop, we can use those to overlap, look where there may be any overlaps, and maybe touch some of the other areas, or help be able to save some of the businesses in the area some money to, cover some of that within what we do. So I think the two-way conversation, the two-way sharing would be really helpful in accomplishing that goal.
There was another question. Again, this is all data driven, wherever we're going. So we're looking at all the visitor reports, all the click-throughs, all the web, everything that's touched from a digitally standpoint, and anything Joanne's office can supply is all factored into where we head with these dollars, right? One of the things that came up, just as an example of this, we need data back from the business community as well. One of the things that came up, there's a conversation, or there was a question presented about the validity of the Boston market. We're seeing Boston market get pushed down, especially in winter, to like 1.3% or 1.4%. However, one of the other hoteliers would say, and it came through as a comment, well, a big portion of my business is coming from Boston. Okay, we don't know that. We don't know what period that is in. We don't know what those parameters are. We don't know the size of the hotel. We don't know the size of the sample. Happy to look at it. And that forced us to go back and really dive into what Boston market was contributing for winters past and visitation and websites. So we welcome any of that feedback and any of that input so that we can leverage your experiences and not just the county data that Joanne provides and has access to.
Thank you. Excellent.
Supervisor Hogan, you had a question?
Thank you. Do you work with other municipalities?
I'm sorry, who was asking that question? Yes, we do. We work with other counties. We work with other DMOs. We work with I Love New York. We're spread out all over New York State. So the answer to your question is yes.
So are there other municipalities where you do have it structured into your contract to have more back and forth with the
that, if I might, there's no reason for that to be a contractual piece. We appear in front of the TAC committees on a quarterly basis. We are here. You are our clients. We're available on Zoom. We're available here in person as of, just a request from last week, right? So again, to your point, it depends on the county that says, I'll take our I Love New York contract. It's not in the contract that we meet with them twice a week, but we do, right? Greene County, it's not in our contract that we do these calls. And Joanne, it's not in our contract that we are in touch with Joanne on a weekly, monthly, bi-monthly basis in the reporting, but that's what we do. So in way of answering your question, if it needs to be in a contract, it can be in a contract, but by way of our style of doing business, we are in contact probably more often than some clients would like.
Thank you.
And we want to do our job well, and the best way to do our job well is make sure that we're making everybody happy. So whatever that takes, if that's in-person meetings, if that's frequent phone calls 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is, we're here to serve the county and make sure that we're doing a good job. So if extra information, extra data, extra meeting times is what it takes, that's what we do. Great. So now we're going to look at the media plan here. I know everyone has it in front of them and it's very small because it was a digital document. And so I will just kind of take you a little bit through the structure. So you can see, because I don't believe you have seen one of these before, but this is what we do each season in preparation for how we're going to roll out the marketing dollars based on the research, trends we're seeing, and then of course what Lake George area has to offer. So it's broken up into 4 different sections using the 4 different tactics that we are going to be utilizing. So paid social, which is the Facebook and Instagram. That's any sort of sponsored content on social media. So that's the yellow section. The green section is native advertising. The orange section is Google Ads, and the red section is retargeting. So within each of these sections, we have it broken out in that far left column by themes. So based on what we just talked about with what we're seeing and what we're focusing on going into January through March in 2022, that's how we have laid it out on this media plan. So in paid social, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Through the left column, we have cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, downhill skiing and snowboarding, ice bars, indoor activities, events, ice castles, winter carnival, maple weekends, lodging, and a Canadian campaign. We'll get to the Canadian in a second after we run through this media plan because we have a little bit more information on that as well. Each of those themes has a very specific landing page. So we don't want to direct everybody to the homepage. We want to direct the users and the audience very aligned with what they're seeing in the ad to what their experience will be on the website. So the cross-country skiing theme there in that campaign will go to the cross-country skiing page on the Visit Lake George website. I think that's fairly straightforward, but we want to make sure that that's pretty aligned for our users. They have a very similar experience with what they're seeing to what they actually have as a landing page experience. The markets that we're going to be targeting this winter is Albany, New York City, which covers Long Island, Western Connecticut, as well as Northern New Jersey. Philadelphia, that covers all of most of Eastern Pennsylvania and the remainder of New Jersey. Syracuse, Utica, Buffalo, and Rochester. For some of the more local, for some of the events, such as the ice castles, we have removed the Albany market because we find that in the area you tend to know what is going on, especially for the ice castles. That's pretty big, and we would rather spend some of that money reaching an audience that may not be as familiar. So we've included the Burlington and Plattsburgh market as well because that's fairly local. Would definitely be interested in coming down for those events. And then for the Canadian campaign, that has Quebec, Ottawa, and Montreal. We have specific age demographics for each of these related to what audience makes the most sense for each of these themes. And then each of the targeting, we target behaviorally, which means we target an audience rather than just a placement. So we want to reach an audience that is interested in what we're talking about. We don't want to serve a cross-country skiing ad to somebody who has zero interest in being outside in the snow. So we very closely align that targeting to an interested and in-market audience. So for cross-country skiing, I'll use that as the example since it's the first one up there. Our interest targeting is Nordic skiing, cross-country skiing, outdoor recreation, and winter sports. That aligns with that audience that we're seeing. And the very far right-hand column there is the predicted audience size. So within Facebook, we can see that information on how big that audience is based on the geographic targeting, the age demographics, and the interests. So that for this specific cross-country skiing one, that is 7.3 million to 8.6 million users. That's how big that audience pool is, and that's what we're targeting for that specific ad. Then at the far right-hand side, you see the breakdown of each month and what we are spending for each different theme there. So cross-country skiing, things start to melt in March. We'll end that campaign at the end of February. If we see snow stays a little bit longer, we can push that out. It's very flexible. Or if we say we see cross-country skiing, nobody clicks on it, nobody likes it. Nobody's engaging with that post. We can absolutely turn that off and allocate that money into something else that's performing well, or maybe something new that popped up and that people are interested in showcasing and see how that performs. And then at the far right-hand side, you see the budgets, and then there's a total amount for each of the different tactics. We scroll down to the green area.
If I may,
Yes,
on the budget side,
yes.
for $2,500, we expect to be able to reach 7 to maybe 9 million people.
That's a great question. We can't reach everybody. With budgets are always limited and audiences are all very large. So we try and prioritize, what's popular. If, you folks say, we don't think we can reach that many people, we would rather spend that money on something else, we can do that. We don't expect to reach everyone, but that gives us an idea of what that audience size looks like.
So what would you expect to get out of that? What percentage of that 7 to 9 million would you get for $2,500? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So that has a fluctuating cost per 1,000 impressions. And we would, it's always different for each audience time. So I'd have to get back to you on the exact number, but we would expect to see whatever the budget is, we expect to see about that many results, which is generally clicks to the website and engagements. So for each of the, we would expect to see at least 2,500 results, and that can always go up from there.
Yes.
We typically never see below that.
Each of these different categories have a different price per 1,000. So it breaks down. We can share that formula with you and maybe add another column as to the expected reach of those budgeted dollars. It's not $1 per one. That's the wrong math. And each one of these selected audiences have a different cost per 1,000. So your question would vary by each piece. That's a lot of data that Ally sorts through. We'd be happy to bring that back.
And a lot of that ends up getting calculated real time once things are running.
Yeah.
So usually we have to see like a week or two and be able to get that to kind of get a little bit more of a prediction about where things are going. It's always different times of the year, how popular things are. But we can absolutely get you a little bit of a better idea on that.
Is it realistic to expect that it's like $1 per click through?
That's about right.
Supervisor Hogan, you had a question?
Thank you. Could you explain the audience size column again then?
Yes. So by inputting all of the information geographically, age, demographics, and interests, that gives us the pool of people or the number of people that could receive that ad. So we're not working with every single person in the United States. It's based on the all of that information. We want to ensure that we're not serving to an audience size that is 1,000 people. That's not an effective use of budget. We want to make sure it's large enough that we are able to reach enough people for it to be an effective ad. So based on the geographic targeting, the demographics, and the interest targeting, that gives us an available pool of people that the ad will be served to.
Supervisor Bramer?
Thank you. I just a high level question. I guess I've been going through our website and looking around and trying to see what people would click through to. Are you responsible for developing the content on these sites, or is this all through our tourism department? And you're just serving up the
We are
ads
serving
to
up
get
the
to
ads.
the link. Okay.
Yes.
The website is our department and the vendor that we work with. So in the past, Workshop has also had the website contract, but we're moving ahead with developing a new contract with BBG&G. So those two vendors will work together, but we typically create the content, the descriptions, populate the images that are on the website.
Okay, good. Well, I have you, Joanne. Did they participate at all with the meetings that we had last week with the consultant working on that study for us?
Workshop did not. I made the Hunden team aware that we had the contract with Workshop, but they did. I know that they are doing a number of follow-up calls, but they have not spoken with them.
Okay. As long as they know they're available, it sounds like they'd be willing to talk to them.
Absolutely.
Ben?
Thank you, Chairman. Warren County generously invests in the pool insuring arena. I don't know if there is currently anything on the county website. I know I've seen it in print advertising. Are there plans to incorporate pool insuring arena, and particularly during the winter, professional hockey? I just got back from on my way to the Cape Cod region. We stopped in Worcester, and there was probably between 30 and 40 fans from this region following the team out there. And I think that's the case with Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maine, and some other places that are within maybe 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours of this region. So I'm just interested if that's part of the strategic plan.
So we do primarily promote events that take place at the Civic Center, and hockey is huge in this off season. I will note that aside from this media plan that we have in front of us from workshop, Casey O'Brien in our office is our social media coordinator. So she has her own little budget carved out, and it is primarily events. So I know that she's definitely focusing on any events that are taking place in small towns,
Yep.
or hockey or ice castles, which is lots of engagement there. So the answer is yes.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Any more questions on the paid social piece? So everything else is laid out very similarly, so I won't read through every little thing for you unless we have questions and you'd like me to. But that native advertising section, if you don't know what native advertising is, it's a form of advertising that blends in with the format of the platform that it is served on. So for example, if you are on a news site, a lot of the times at the bottom, you might be familiar with seeing recommended for you related articles, something along that line. If it says sponsored there, that's a native advertisement. So it's a very dynamic ad that blends in with the format of whatever website, platform, app it is on. And we found that tactic works best when we serve blogs. The user is already in a mindset to be reading, to be gathering information. So we have selected 4 blogs for this winter, for January through March, to run on native advertising. So we have winter activities for people who don't like the cold. We want to make sure that we are reaching an audience that may not be quite as adventurous and into all of the outdoor activities, and there's plenty to offer in the Lake George area. 5 things to know about winter in the Lake George area. The 12 best towns for winter escape, and what to do in the Lake George area when seeing the ice castle. So that's a new blog, and once that comes out, that will be very related to a bit more of a local audience and people already interested in or planning to attend the ice castles, because we want to make sure that they're available of everything else there is to do in the area. There's a big push for that this year. There's a lot going on, a lot of excitement. I've heard it throughout New York State. And people are like, have you heard about the ice castles? So very exciting. And we want to make sure that those people also know that there's other things to do. And we can help direct them to that. So that's the goal of that blog. Again, this is all very interest targeted, related, landing pages specific to those blogs. And each of them have a budget of $5,000. That has an $8 CPM, which means it costs $8 for 1,000 impressions. So you're going to guarantee to get at least 550,000 impressions. So number of times that your ad appears.
So if I may follow up again.
Yeah.
Could you tell me exactly what a blog is? Because I'm thinking that there's people that write all sorts of information, and where does that content come from? But if you could just help me understand what a blog is.
So a blog is a story, an article, and it lives on our website. So it might be kind of buried on the website, but the way that we direct people to that story is through either paid or organic social media. So people on my staff, and I'm going to hire a new communications assistant into the new year because I lost my copywriter. But when Eric was on board, he was the primary content and copywriter, and he wrote a lot for the website specifically, but blogs as well. Don Lehman has been writing for us. He's an outdoorsman, so he lends us that. Paul writes a little bit about history. I've written a couple of things. Occasionally we hire out for freelancers. So those stories, articles are kind of first person. I've done this, I've experienced this, and this is what it's like. And we do find paid and organic, when I look back at Google Analytics, people are taking 2 and 3 minutes to read through the blogs. So they like to read what someone has actually experienced. It makes it more meaningful for them. So we find that those perform very well.
Great. Any other questions on native? Cool. So we'll scroll down to the next section, the orange section, which is Google Ads. This is, I'm sure you're very familiar with typing something in Google, and the first few results is something that says ad next to it. That is what we are doing. We have a variety of different campaign themes here. Within each campaign, what we have is called ad groups, which contain a group of related keywords. So for example, we have, say, winter recreation. Within that campaign, we have a downhill skiing and snowboarding ad group, and all of those keywords and the relevant or the related ads to that ad group are related to downhill skiing and snowboarding and direct users to that page on the website. So this is what we have put together, very dependent on search trends, what we're seeing, and again, what the Lake George area has to offer. We also have two ads or two campaigns at the bottom, which include YouTube ads. One is for ice bars and one is for the Maple Weekends. So ice bars will run January and February, whereas Maple Weekends will start mid-February and run through the end of March. Any questions there? Cool. And then retargeting is our final tactic here. So that is, I mentioned it earlier, we use it with banner ads to retarget. So that audience is a pool of users who have been on the Visit Lake George area website within the past 30 days. So we already have an audience that is interested, they have engaged with the brand, and that helps to keep you top of mind while they're in their travel decision-making journey. So that is primarily used to help serve impressions and keep you top of mind. And it's always important. A lot of these are what we call top funnel to kind of reach new users, whereas the retargeting is much more bottom funnel to reach a user that has already engaged with your brand. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
and I'm sorry for taking so much time, but it's an opportunity to educate
Yeah.
myself. If you only had $500,000 instead of $1 million, what would you prioritize and how would you go about making that decision?
Yeah, so Michael, I think I would do it injustice to give you that answer right now because of the amount of work that goes into creating this and for the dollar spend. That's a lot of feedback as to what the county's priorities are and where if they had limited funds, what would the hierarchy of the most important pieces to be done? And at that point, there would be a different media plan. It would look very much different than this.
But
And
my
I don't
question
mean to-
wasn't
I
related.
don't mean to avoid your question. I'm just saying that there's a lot more that goes into that than just saying off the cuff, I would slash this, and this.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to look into that kind of specific details.
Right.
I'm just, from a big picture standpoint, and I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of how these decisions are made.
Yep.
Right.
So, and that was the basis for my question.
Right.
So if you had $500,000, how would you decide that ice bars was more important than ice castles?
So
Or is that input from us?
that's influenced from your group and then ultimately back to us through Joanne's office. That would be very critical for you folks to decide where your priorities were for each season and what the spend would be.
So we defined what the spend is for each one of these?
Again, I don't know the machinations internally. Joanne's office does, right? Yeah.
Not the far right column where the breakdown is.
No,
That's the seasonal spend.
yeah.
And I would say if we were to slash this budget, I wouldn't cut every budget there in half. It would take a reworking of, yes, you're right, prioritizing what we think is most important based on what we're seeing in travel trends and then search trends as well as what the input is from Warren County itself. And just, I know it's small, but in the events for Google Ads, Ice Castles is one of the ad groups. So we'll do events in general and then any relevant specific events. So we have right now for sure Ice Castles, Winter Carnival, and the Maple Weekends.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. You say you use travel trends to determine the spend. What information, where are you pulling that from? Like what comparables are you using and what criteria?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We use a mix of a variety of different things. So just in general, we'll use marketing trends through eMarketer. And then we really rely a lot on the Google Analytics and Google Search Console of the website, because we want to see what is bringing people to the website, how are they getting there, what searches, which gives us a strong idea of trends. And then we also go outside of your specific website into other tools and platforms such as SEMrush and Moz, which are two search tools. SEO and paid search are kind of what they're primarily used for. And we're able to use those to say we're typing in travel, we can see what's trending in the area. Google also, it's a little bit, provides a lot of information on all of that, but to help kind of pare it down, we'll use some other tools too. So it's an overlapping of all of that.
Do you mind if I have a quick thought? When you say area, how do you define that?
Like, sorry, the area, like
Said
Lake
we
George
define
area?
what's trending in the area.
Yes.
So how do you define the area?
So I would define it would be in multiple parts here. So I would define specifically first Warren County. That's one area. Start there. Then we go out a little bit further to, I'd say probably the Adirondacks and New York State. And then we can go a little bit more to the Northeast to see what is trending. We like to see what's overlapping, what might be trending, say in Maine, but isn't relevant. So we like to see just in general, start small and go out bigger. Similarities, things that another area might be doing that is also relevant that we can try. So I know that doesn't give you specific one area, it's multiple areas we will look at.
If I might
Just
add
one more.
one other comment
Sure.
to that. We are a destination marketing firm. It's not that we share your data or use your data to other clients' data to inform, but this is the space that we live in. And primarily 80% of the space that we live in is the New York State tourism market. So we are constantly involved at New York State level, at New England level, and filters down. So while Ally will go into many of those platforms that she said specifically for specific demographics and specific digital user demographics, we are constantly watching and reacting to trends, first nationwide, first region-wise, and then bringing those trends down locally. Yeah. And we also are very heavily invested in the client with ARTC and have been for many years. We understand the Adirondack play. We understand the ski play, the winter, the summer tourism season. So there's, to answer your question on a macro level, there's many, many pieces that inform that.
So I have another one, maybe two. I'm going to try to be quick.
Sure.
I understand the benefit of advertising to attract people to the area. Have we any opportunity to connect the advertising to actual visitors?
Yes. So this is a common question when you have an organization, a regional organization, a county organization. There is a break where you can't follow the funnel to the true attribution of who checked into your hotel, where did they come through, but you're building that sales and that visitor funnel, right? And I'm trying to answer your question, but I also am admitting that final attribution, because of the way your website is, because of the way the counties are set up, because of the way the regions are set up, they can't link that visit to that reservation.
Has anyone done that?
So a slippery slope, right? A lot of the hoteliers don't want to share that data, but they want the attribution back, right? There are ways to place pixels and outbound pieces. It's a whole nother exploratory piece. Yes, it can be done, but it has to be done with full cooperation, right? There's some other ways to do partnership programs that do get that. Again, a whole nother ball of wax from just the paid media piece.
So other areas have done something like this and figured out how to do it?
Other areas have done pieces where they have promoted specific venues, specific activities through a partnership program, and then can show attribution. Is that a fair answer?
We have also had an example or a few clients where we are able to track once it goes off of a website to then back, but there has to be full cooperation both ways. So I wouldn't say that we want to just, get that value from one business in the area, because I think it would be very skewed. I think it would have to be a good, probably at least 60% to get a good idea.
Michael, that's a complicated play
Yeah.
as well, from scale, from your larger pieces down to your smaller pieces. And then that starts an argument. Well, what about me? Right?
Yeah.
Why does the 10X hotel or venue get that attribution where I don't get that attribution? So we'd be happy to discover this and have come prepared for another conversation around that. And we'd be happy to explore that with you.
I think it's one of the things that we could benefit from. I'm just trying to get a scope in terms of where we can look to see who
Right.
might have been able to pull that off before and how we could make that happen and whether there's an appetite for it.
Right.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry for taking so much
No,
time, Mr.
no
Chairman.
problem.
I will say we can track once a user leaves the Warren County website and goes to a business. So once they leave the website, we're able to see that event that happens. So, but that's where we lose the attribution there.
Do you report on that?
We absolutely can. We can include those in that report.
I'd like to come back and clarify at what level we can do that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just one more
Yes.
piece of the puzzle in
And so-
terms of
and-
understanding the
and-
value of advertising.
And your questions are not unique. And again, the break between the public and private space is where it gets slippery, right? If we were doing this for a private business, there'd be no issue. You could show immediately what your ROI was, because outbound versus inbound, right? It's dollar spent versus dollar back. Where that breaks is in that public-private, where the county dollar comes to the private dollar.
An opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any remaining questions on the media plan? Okay, great. So we'll go back to the presentation if that's all right. Great. So this is a little bit of this slide here is a reference to explain each of the different tactics that we just went through. I think no one had any questions, so I'll just kind of move past this one. We just went over the media plan. So here we go to Canadian marketing. That's the big question that ever evolving. Is the border open? What are the restrictions? So what our plan is right now, you saw we had a small portion of the budget allocated to the Canadian market to help test reintroducing the Warren County brand into that market. We would like to target in-market travelers so we can make sure that we're truly targeting people who are interested in travel and not trying to convince anybody to travel, because I think that's the best spend of this budget at this time. And we'd like to direct users to a Canadian-specific landing page on the website. So that would include top things to do with visiting less than 72 hours and can direct users to other areas on the website to explore more. But it also has information and COVID guidelines to inform the Canadian traveler. So if you're visiting, as of right now, less than 72 hours, you don't need to retest before entering Canada again. If you are visiting longer, we'll have information for all of that. So Canadian travelers have an easy user experience when trying to figure out how and convince them to travel to the Lake George area. So plan B, that is if restrictions are loosened or lifted. So then we would like to reintroduce the Canadian markets, or yes, the Canadian markets. What we focus on is Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa, into the remainder of the media plan. So right now we talked about New York City being one of the markets, Buffalo, etc. We would introduce those Canadian markets right back in as we have in the past. That is, if things are lifted, we treat them like any other user trying to visit the area. And we would reallocate that budget into something that's working, or again, to try something new. Plan C is if travel restrictions tighten, the border closes, any sort of pullback from the ease of Canadian travelers to visit the Lake George area, we can entirely shut it down. We can pull back on budget, or we can shut it down completely at any point. So that's why we're including it into a digital piece, because there's so much flexibility there. At any point, we can change the messaging of the ads, we can change the landing page, we can change whatever it is to serve those ads to that market. So we can reallocate that budget, we can try something new, whatever it is we're looking for there. So that's kind of our ABC plan there for how things look. If things stay the same, the way they are, if things improve, if things get worse.
So, Ally, if I could just go back and try to leverage Michael's question a little bit more about this. That Canadian market is hard for us to measure, right? Because the private sector in this region, in this county, has that data, or that zip code data, about the value of that Canadian visitor, right? We went back with Joanne and we tried to discover through her in-county usage, which can be derived from cell phones and that data. But unfortunately, her access can't track Canadian cell phones. So we had the conversation, well, how can we see the value of the Canadian visitor to Warren County, right? And I think, Joanne, and if I'm correct, that we kind of said, well, that's kind of a break in that data. How do we get that from the private sector? So again, opportunity back. We have found in other markets and other clients, the Canadian market is really important. There's a lot of pent up demand in the Canadian market for both shopping and visiting. How important is the Canadian market to Warren County? If we can get some insight from the private sector to inform our spend right now, because it's very small, right? We have $2,000. Is that going to have a huge effect? But if the private, back to your question, Michael, if the private sector can provide, hey, the Canadian visitor is worth 20% of our annual gross, then we should reallocate some of these funds a little bit more towards those Canadian markets. So again, this is clearly, this conversations are great because it's what we suffer a little bit, and Joanne suffers a little bit, is we can't jump the fence to get inside the data of the private sector.
We might be able to help with some of it.
Hopefully that would be great. Yeah, that would be terrific. And it's not an uncommon struggle in like scenarios.
Great. Any other questions here? We will move on. I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn to talk through the next steps.
So as Ally had mentioned, each season we go through this process to develop the media plan for each season. So where we're at right now in our timeline, we have already determined our audiences, messaging, goals, and budgets. We're kind of in this step 2 phase where we have built the media plan. We always share that with Joanne and her team and go through some in-depth of making sure that we've got all the right landing pages, the right assets, things like that, and get that final approval. That's kind of the stage we are in right now. Looking forward, our next steps, once this media plan is approved for the rest of this winter season, we will finalize all the assets and create mock-ups of all of the ads. So we have a team that writes the copy for each of the ads. We do A/B versions of each one so that we can, as we monitor, we can push whichever one is serving the most impressions. Once those ad mock-ups are approved, that's when Ally's team starts setting up the campaign. So we do the tracking code creation, which helps us to develop the reports at the end of the season, upload all the ads. the demographics, geographics, things like that, and launch on time. As Tim had mentioned too, we do a daily and weekly management to optimize them. We keep in contact with Joanne to know if there's anything going on that we need to be aware of with the different campaigns, because there's a lot of things all running at one time. And we just keep that going right through to the end. At the end of the season, we do our campaign report wrap up. So meet with Joanne to go through that and figure that out. So I think some of the feedback too that we've gotten, there's some new parts that we will add to our report that I think will be helpful for transparency of information.
Just another question, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I was under the impression that Warren County Tourism did most of the ad creation, and that's not the case.
Well, yes and no. So the creative side of things, so banner ads, that is not at workshop to do. What we do is we write the copy and we select images and we put kind of all of the pieces together.
Okay.
So for some of the we write all of the Google ads, the YouTube ads we do not create, but we are given to then run on the platform. So I think it's a
mix.
It's a mix.
Okay.
It's a joint effort.
Good, thank you.
Cool.
Continue.
Yep. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you. Just had to say thank you.
So from myself and our team, these visits, these interactions are valuable to us as well. The more you understand what goes into this, it's a better light that we're in. This is, we perform really well for Warren County, and we take our commitment really serious for Warren County and have for a number of years, and appreciate working with Joanne's office and all of her employees as well. And again, I'd like in summary just to say thanks for this opportunity. I think it's valuable for an understanding of your concerns and your questions, and hopefully it was valuable for you to see and have insight into what it is we're doing. So thank you for the invitation, Joanne, and we'd be happy to come whenever you want.
Yeah, I do think the important thing is the public-private collaboration that we need to embrace more of. And I think that's what we want to do in the future. Try to get some more help from the private vendors. I mean, I always looked at this as we promote the area and events that we can promote, but they have to also help out. And if we can help them bring more people in the area, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
So one more thing on the metrics. You know, I was looking to find out if we're leading the pack, we're following, and I'm not sure we want to be that far ahead, but you have experience with other markets. And is there any way that you can give us a perception about how we're doing versus how other clients of yours might be doing, and what do they do better?
It's funny, that question comes up often, right? From an integrity standpoint, it's not, you wouldn't want me to go down to Greene County and say, hey, look at this piece we're doing with Warren County, look how great it's going, right? So we have to kind of respectfully create a Chinese wall, right? But internally, we have those same KPIs, right? Internally, we need to meet, as you saw, and exceed the standardized Google pieces. Internally, we know what good performance is and exceptional performance. Oftentimes, it's a differentiation of assets and season, right? Where no one could touch you in Warren County in the height of a summer, right? Fall might be different, winter might be different, right? So again, going right back to your question, right? We have to hold a certain level of integrity, saying, okay, for I Love New York, we had da-da-da-da-da-da for that, right? And how can we relay that? That being said, it's a cumulative knowledge inside of workshop that we're applying equally to all of our clients. Is that fair?
That helps, but I'm still trying to figure
Yeah.
out how we measure ourselves.
So,
Uh,
go ahead, Ally.
I'll let you know that you are performing very well for what we're seeing in travel and tourism. We've seen a lot of clients struggle post-COVID and during COVID, and you guys have continued to perform very well, shifting the message and allocating budget to reflect very specifically what is happening in the world right now. So you're doing that very well. And I say a lot of what we do is, like Tim said, that shared knowledge. So if we're seeing something performing really well for another client, and we can kind of make a little bit of a comparison to, hey, they're a little bit similar, or they have something like this too, we propose that. So that's kind of, we use that knowledge in how we use tactics that we're proposing, as well as the themes that we're doing.
That's fair. That's
So
Yeah.
coming to you and saying, hey, look, here's where they are. So there's that shared knowledge.
I'd be like, hey, so-and-so is doing really great for hiking. That's really trending this year. I'd be like, well, Warren County also has hiking options. Why don't we push hiking as well? Something simple like that,
As
but
example.
so,
Still looking to compare.
Yeah.
Contrast.
Sure, and there's the NISTIA, right? And that's a forum, and I think if you look there, that would be the more appropriate way to go find, successes or failures, right? Through a peer group, right? And I get it. I'd be asking the same thing. Let me look under the covers, right? Where are we, right? So I appreciate that, and I hope you can appreciate that.
I absolutely do
Yeah.
appreciate that confidentiality.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to share what we're doing
Yes,
extremely
of
well
course,
either,
right?
right?
but at the same time, you're getting the general benefit from our total knowledge base, and that is openly shared internally and for the success of all of our clients.
Any more, John, Supervisor Stroh?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure the communication goes on. I probably don't even have to ask this question. But for example, we have singletrack.com said that the mountain biking experience here in Queensbury and Lake George is #1 in the state. And you are seeing bicycles coming to our area from all kinds of states. You see the license plates. So, and we are expanding that mountain biking experience, but it's becoming very popular. And I'm sure the tourism department relays that information to you so that it is on your radar screen. Those kind of conversations do take place. So I'm assuming they do.
absolutely. I'll say that mountain biking and biking was a big focus for us during the fall.
Yes. Supervisor Bramer?
I'm just going to reiterate my comment about Hunden, because it sounds like these guys already have a lot of insight into what is working well. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel if we're doing a great job right now, especially with reacting to COVID and our messaging being so strong about how, especially last year when it first hit, about being safe and coming to our area during the summertime, enjoying outdoor activities. I mean, we have done a really good job. Our county public health department, I'm just going to hound on this for 1 second. Our county health department has been amazing, and we're being recognized throughout the state as how great we are addressing the pandemic and keeping our residents safe and our tourists safe. So I think all of that is stuff that we can leverage as we continue to deal with the pandemic. It's not going away. And just making sure that we do understand those other factors besides the pandemic, that Hunden can then report to us about what is going well and where the areas that other tourist communities are doing really well that we can then, borrow and employ here to help us do even better.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Then I guess we need an approval to move ahead with this portion of our spend for the next 3 months. Somebody want to make that a motion? Motion by Supervisor Merlino, second by Supervisor Stroud to move ahead with the spend. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Supervisor Bremer.
Thank you. I didn't know we had a resolution on what
Not
exactly.
really a resolution, just okay to go ahead with the 100,000. I guess that's what we have to.
It's become part of the contract. I think it was a motion from Supervisor Conover at the board meeting. There was an amendment to the resolution that was, and you all voted on that the team needs to come back to committee before each campaign for committee approval
Of the upcoming
of
campaign.
the upcoming
County
campaign.
attorney would like to comment.
Yes, great.
I would refrain from calling it an addition to the contract. It's more of a clarification from the original contract and the RFP as requested by the Board of Supervisors. But yes, there is that requirement per the RFP, the original contract, and what will be the new contract going into 2022 for reports that cover each of the seasonal spends.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I'd like you to offer the opportunity to abstain on this vote. I'm going to abstain because I heard repeatedly from these folks, and I've heard repeatedly from our hospitality industry that they would like to have more articulation and back and forth. So before I don't feel qualified to vote on this at this moment in time. Thank you.
That's fine. So all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? One abstention.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all. I think
Thank
we're
you
done
again.
with that workshop.
Thank you for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Next up, we have the Proxy Tax Special Event Funding Review. Joanne, did you want to make a comment about the budget? And you have a lot of information in your packet, correct?
I'll just start with referencing a couple of items that are in your packet. So there were some questions at the last meeting about all the different pots of money, of tax money. And the two slides that are with in blue were taken from the workshop presentation that Kristen and I gave, I don't know, September or October or so. And that should make it easy for you to see the breakdown of tourism department's budget and the other OCTAX side of the budget that Lisa usually oversees. So that second part of the budget, 0002, is outlined on the bottom half of that sheet. So you can see the money that goes to the towns, the money that goes to the CVB, the money that goes to the Cool Arena, the $600,000 in the special event fund, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll know which pot of money. Today, we're just looking at the $600,000 for special events. And the spreadsheet is pretty much the same as the spreadsheet that you had a week ago, but we tried to total up some columns and highlight the different, we'll have two different pots of money, or should I say applications. So right now we're looking at round one, the major seasonal events that take place in a year. So typically between May and the end of September. Then there'll be another round of applications, and we'll consider those for the off season or off peak time of year. So right now we're really looking at that top section, round one, numbers 1 through 20. But keep in mind, there's $600,000 in that pot of money, and we will likely see applications from other events that are on that spreadsheet. And that all of those totals, all of those requests come in at well over $800,000. So those are your considerations today. We had presentations 2 weeks ago from each of the event organizers.
Okay.
And we need to make that determination as to how much to award each event.
Okay, all right. Great. So I'll leave it up to committee. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. So before we start talking about individual events and numbers, Joanne, could you outline for us strategically what you would like to see allocated, reserved for the next round and allocated today?
The next round, so we've already committed, if you'll look at the couple there for Winter Carnival and the Hague Fire Tower, that's $52,000. So we'll take that out of the 600 right away. The other winter events that seem to be performing fairly well are another $200,000. So I think you have to immediately say 600,000 minus 252.5. The sports complex may come in with an application. They may not. Not sure what's going on over there. So that would be the very minimum, is to allow $252,500 for those events that are outstanding.
So, but that does not leave any room for unanticipated applications.
That's correct.
Okay. So that would leave roughly 348 to be allocated today to the events,
One
or
through
300. Okay,
Mhm.
just to be clear, and we have 575 in ask.
Mhm.
Okay. So I thought may I, Chairman?
Sure.
I just wanted to explain my process before we got into it a little bit. I scored each one according to the criteria that we all agreed on. And then awarded according to the score. Where somebody came in the 90s, I gave them the full amount that they were asking for. I took 10% off for every 10 below that. So with the 80s, I took 10% off, 70s, I took 20% off. I then went back and tried to anticipate what the amounts would be between, and the amount we'd have to reserve, and roughly came out close to what you said, maybe a little over. I was going with 70 for this round and 30% of the 600,000 for the next round. So then I went back to the applications we would be looking to today and reduced each one equally by the percentage that needed to come off to meet the amount in the end. I thought that would be fair. That way, with the exception of the Balloon Festival, because I think the Balloon Festival should get everything they're asking for. And the garage sale. They're both great events, and I thought they both should get everything. So that was how I did it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, just a question for the committee members. If whether they did the allocation based on the budget or based on the ask, because I did it based on the budget and I still couldn't get there. I got the 383,000 and I made some cuts.
Okay.
So I'm just curious how we're going to go about this. Are we focused on the budget, or are we just going to spend like we always do?
I think we need to focus on the spend, but we'll take everybody's comments in to Supervisor Bramer.
I'll defer to Supervisor Hogan.
Could you just clarify the remark that we're going to focus on the spend? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, is the spend amount requested? Is that what you're talking? That's what I would talk about.
But we have an amount, a budgeted amount we have to
We have
follow.
budget amount, right?
So could you clarify the remark that you?
Well, I was going to base it on what they asked, and if we have to get into reserve fund, we'll have to go into reserve fund, I guess. But that's just the way I would do it. But I'm going to take anybody's comments. You can.
So it seems fundamentally we need to agree whether we're going to exceed our budget or not from the very start.
See how you can. Well, that's just my opinion. Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. My opinion is that we should look at our budget and adjust what we have here as we go into it before we start nickel and diming these applications. I think all of them are good. I didn't see any that I thought were terrible. They're all good applications and they're good spend of our money. Maybe some shouldn't get the full amount, or, some I think could get more than they've asked for. But in any case, I did go back and look at some of the information that we had from the treasurer's office, and in November, it was reported that we had $5.4 million in occupancy tax collections. I understand that the treasurer likes to keep $1 million in that account for cash flow purposes. And he's indicated that even with the $1 million, we have over another $1 million that's unallocated in that fund. In my mind, there's no reason why we shouldn't be putting that money to work. Even if he wants a little bit more in the cushion, so like maybe 1.5 million, that still leaves us something like $700,000 of money that's unallocated that I think we can put towards the $600,000 budget amount. That would be my request, is that we look at amending the budget first.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
and I know that this is occupancy tax discussion and we never agree and nobody has the same opinion. But I truly believe that we also need to put this money to work. But there's different ways to do that. We can put it to work this year and do the same thing we've always done, or we could put some aside for real opportunities that may come up. We want to expand, our seasons. We know that summer is, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it works. We have opportunities where if we're going to grow our tourism season, we may need to invest like we did with ice castles, and maybe we have to do some infrastructure investments. So I'd like to see a big chunk of this in terms of the windfall or whatever we get from the vacation rentals, and use that as a fund that becomes significant in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years to allow us to make a big play. Otherwise, we're just doing the same stuff over and over again. And is that what we really want to do? I say no, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussions? The problem is let's go ahead, Supervisor Stroud.
I mean, in the past, what we did is we went down through each one individually, tried to see if we had a consensus. Of course, we never have given everybody all that they asked for. We trimmed here, we trimmed there, and then we saw the bottom line, and then we saw what we had to do. Do we feel strongly about going into the fund balance? Or are we close to meeting our allocation? You know, but that's what we usually do first.
Supervisor Molino.
I agree with John on that. I did my homework a little bit with some information, and I actually came about $40,000 over the budget amount of 575. So with a little thinking and picking each one, take a little off from one, keep some the same. I had a couple that should be referred back to the towns for now, and that could help lower some of the stuff. So, but I'd rather do it one by one. Once we all talk about it, we all get involved in it.
Sure. That's okay. We'll start right off with, is everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
I mean, there are some rules here, and some of these events came in that are above the rules, so I don't think we can break them. So Supervisor Bramer.
Speaking of the rules on the application, I'd like to know from our staff if there's any that we should be stripping out right now because they didn't complete the application. I think we talked about this a little bit, but in the meantime, I did ask today if there were action reports from all of the events who have received funding in the past. And the answer I got back was that no, some have, but not all of them.
Okay.
So my suggestion is if we're going to go through each one of these, then we should be updated on which ones haven't met the requirements.
Can somebody enlighten us?
I'm just asking that we do it as we go through each
As
one.
we go through them? Okay. All right. Well, let's go with the Balloon Fest. Can we start with the Balloon Fest? Because I know we have another meeting in an hour and a half or so.
I'm good with the Balloon Fest as it
Balloon
stands.
Fest at 40?
That's
Everybody
good.
okay?
I'm for it.
I'm good.
Hello? Yes? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Somebody wave your hands if you're not, okay? And then I'll catch you. Want to do 40. Cycling,
I'm good.
20,000 for the cycling.
I'm good.
Yes? Supervisor Hogan.
I found the cycling to be a solid organization. They operate in every corner of the county, but they don't put a lot of heads in beds. So I scored them in the 60s, which gave, from my perspective, their award came in at about 16,000.
Did you say 16?
16.
I'm sorry.
16.
16. What's the consensus committee? Those who want the full 20,000, raise your hands.
I had a second thought there too.
Oh, okay.
To Supervisor Wild's point that that several of us have made over the years is if we ever develop a capital component to OCTAX, this is the kind of organization that would really benefit from that.
For trails, you mean?
Yeah, trails
Yeah.
development.
Well, you know, it's funny because, not that I don't want to go, but yesterday we heard a lot about Nature Conservancy purchasing lands and developing more trails up north of here for biking. So that's something that caught our eyes yesterday at the AATV meeting. So, yeah. So could you live with 20, or you want to, 20,000 show of hands?
Well, we're going to run out of money if we do it this way.
Mr. Chairman, but they also do trail expansion. This is an infrastructure piece also. So I'm in favor of this is one that I was in favor of doing the full 20,000 for.
It's a
Their events
non-profit.
It's a nonprofit. They
Yeah.
go through basically the whole summer, spring and fall season. They're bringing many people here, 40,000. We don't know how many stay overnight, but I'm sure John has a sense of that with the trails that we have in Queensbury. But I think this is a worthy cause, and it's not a lot of money. It's
Anybody who's
20,000.
for 20,000, raise your hand. Opposed? Andrea had a good point. 16,000, so 20,000 on the consensus of committee.
For the
You-
first go around.
Is somebody scoring these for us over there?
I'm keeping track. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next up would be Adirondack Folk School. 15,000.
I said 10.
What did you think?
10 for Mr. Stroud.
I too put down 10 coincidentally. But I personally give to them. I think they're a great group in return. But, you know, we got to go through probably more than one round with this. And we're going to have to cut somewhere. But the folk school is a great organization. It's a great regional asset. It's going to be tough, but I did put down 10. I have to admit.
Supervisor Merlino.
Well, I gave it the 15. It's an all year round event, operation, nonprofit. They do put heads in beds and, you know, I support, but I can lower that down, the 13. Huh? You can't hear me?
It's hard for here to me, but go ahead. You said
Yeah,
15.
I went with the 15, the 15. It's a year round operation.
What? Okay,
And I think they bring a lot of people into the county.
Supervisor Bremer.
No, no comment. No comment.
No comment. Supervisor Hogan.
For me, they scored 66. So when I applied the logic that I was using and the scoring matrix that we all agreed to use, I came up with 10,500.
Okay. Chairwoman, you had a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question about the methodology here. I appreciate tourism's effort and your efforts all year long to come up with a scoring sheet. But as an ex officio member, I did go through and do the scoring in case I had to make a quorum. My question here is, it doesn't seem consistent in terms of what everyone is using for the methodology, equating a score to a dollar amount. What is that methodology? I'm not hearing anyone say their scores except for Supervisor Hogan. So I'm wondering, are they all using the same score metric? I mean, I didn't use it in the same way Supervisor Hogan did. So what is the guidance of if someone equals this point, what is that dollar amount equivalent to?
I can't answer whatever the committee members are doing.
I think I explained how I'm doing it. If they scored 90, I gave them the full award, 10% down for each increment
Right.
underneath.
Right.
Then I saw the bottom line and took off for trying to meet the 70% allocation for this season.
What is the recommendation for the equivalent?
I have no recommendations.
Because I had a very difficult time getting much past, I mean, if you're scoring out of 100, many of my scores were 60s and 70s. I just don't know what that equates to.
Supervisor Stroud.
The hard and fast rules. I don't know.
Can you speak into the mic? Because I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The hard and fast rules. I know in many cases here that many of these organizations know that they're going to get cut. So they ask for more than they actually need to make the event happen. Did you put a point system on that? So, I mean, you have to look at each event. You probably have some familiarity with the event. And you probably have some familiarity with what the event's going to produce. Not all those are hard and fast. I'll give this 9 points or 10 points. Sometimes you got to play it by ear.
Okay. Well, I'll enter my 2 cents on the folk school. I mean, I know they have a lot of good events, but I'm not sure it comes into one of these events that produce overnight visitors. I mean, I would think between what we can give them and what maybe the town could forward out of some of their funds, that would suffice to, or the town could reapply for some funding. I mean, I would take them down to 12,000 at a score around 80 for me, for the folk school. But I'll do whatever the committee, whatever the committee wants to do. I look at these events of bringing people into the community. And I know they bring people into the community, but do they come in for classes? Do they stay over? That's be my question. So pick a number, and I guess, you know, we may have to slice it some more, but this is one where I think we could cut it back a little bit.
All right, I can go with 12.
I can go with 12 or 13.
12.
Supervisor Wild?
No comment.
Okay.
12 is fine. 12 is fine.
Okay. Supervisor Hogan, I know that's a little more, I think, than what you said.
10-5, she said.
10.5 was where I came in at. My only hesitation here is if we're going to go this way, we should probably start from the bottom, Supervisor Garrity, because we're going to run out of money long before we get to the garage sale.
Well, we'll be fine.
Let's just keep on going. We'll figure out where we make
We'll be
adjustments.
fine. The car show, that's
So
a
you're leaving it at 12, Kevin?
12. Okay, the car show, it's a not-for-profit,
Uh,
it says, right?
Yeah, I'm at 25,000.
I was at 25.
I saw that we gave 25 last year, and I'll say that my scoring, I broke it down is if they were relatively high, I was giving them the full request. If they were kind of middle in the pack, I was trying to cut them a little bit. And if they were at the bottom of the pack in their score, I was willing to cut them more out of their request. So anyway, 25,000 is where I had this
That's what I had
event.
for them, 25. Supervisor Hogan?
I too came in relatively low on a score for them. My only feedback for them would be is that it appears as though their only hospitality partner is the Fort, and I would encourage them to expand their reach on that in the future to up their score.
Okay.
Also, I'll say their materials say they have unknown room nights, so that didn't allow me to score them very high on the economic impact. They only, for me, got 15 points.
Okay. Thank you. So we go 25. It seems to be consensus right now.
Yes.
First round, yeah.
Next one would be the Adirondack wine and food, and that's a profit. That's for profit.
I had 20 because it's in season and it's a profit-making venture.
Okay.
This is this is my second highest scored one, and I had 45,000.
Okay.
I went with 30.
Supervisor Stroud?
I went with 30.
I had 40.
Supervisor Hogan?
I came in at 40.
And I'll go with 40. So we'll put 40.
30?
40.
40.
40.
40 seems to be consensus. Okay.
As long as it's the first round.
Yep. Try to do this. Next one would be the Alpha Win. This is the triathlon. They're a for-profit event too. And they asked for, got 15,000 in 2021. They asked for 30. Yeah,
I have 15.
15.
15. Supervisor Hogan?
I came in at 15 as well, although I thought his presentation was excellent. But I think we do need to take into consideration that we support this event with public safety money as well.
Okay, 15. 15 seems to be consensus, okay? I had to switch classes, so you'll have to wave at me. Next one is Mary-Kate.
45.
50.
50.
Supervisor Hogan.
I brought him in at 40.
40. I brought them in as 50. We have been tracking a lot that they're doing. Did they present their reports to us?
We have not received a report.
No report.
Ooh, 45.
No reports.
Come on, guys.
45.
45?
Well, we did this previously and they came in and said, listen, you're gonna cut me down by 5,000. You know what? I'm gonna cut my advertising down by 5,000, okay?
So the towns can make up the difference. I'm sorry.
We already, you know. Probably don't this one, I just don't know, but, I would argue that we have to keep it the same. It's one of the biggest events we have. It's one of the most successful events we have. And if there's any event, aside with the Bloom Festival, that deserves the full amount, it's this and the Warrenburg Drive sales, the things we know are successful, the things we know that bring in people and money into the area.
This is certainly a signature event, and I kind of gave it some bonus points on the economic impact side of things, but why are they not giving us the report?
They will. They just have not submitted for their voucher yet. We will not pay them until we receive their report, but it has not been requested.
I would like the committee to be able to receive all the reports once they come in, all of them. Okay.
We must say, though, that they did recreate their event and change events and add things in, so I would go with 50,000 for them. And just hope, I mean, we're not paying them anything until they give us, so the money's in the bank.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one question? I don't know if we have that data or not, but prior to 21, what were they getting in 20, 19, 18, 70? Were they getting 50?
Every year.
They always got.
All right, so
That's
based on
top amount.
inflation, we're not increasing,
No.
we're actually
not
decreasing the value.
Just
I'll accept 50,
Okay.
even though it wasn't in my spreadsheet.
Okay. Food truck Fridays, that's the Hurricane.
That's coming out, right?
That should be moved to the municipal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Out. That would be a municipal event. And,
Yep.
and then she can reapply under the municipality. Hide collection. Hide collection, they asked for, what they asked for.
25,
25.
I have 15.
Last year they got 15, hide collection. It's, next year will be their 60th year next year.
Yep.
I think we should give them the full amount. They scored high for me. They're off-season events, and they're a really unique thing to our community. And they're saying they're bringing over 2,000 bed nights.
Yeah, I do think they bring a lot of people in for a lot of their exhibits. People, different type of personnel to look at what they offer. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I too awarded them the full amount that they were asking for. They scored very high for me. I think that overall they enhanced the culture of Warren County tremendously. And I'm really excited to see them reaching, expanding their programming. I think they've got a lot of really, really exciting ideas, and they obviously put a lot of work into their application.
Right. 25,000, then we'll pencil them in 25. Supervisor Merlino?
Yep, I did the 25. It's a big cultural tourism.
Yes. Cool.
And I think give them the shot at the 25.
Improv records.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman. What did they get years past also? The hide?
They got 15 and 2021, I believe.
15 and 21. Do we know what they got years prior?
Somewhere around that same amount.
So basically what we're doing is we're jumping this up by $10,000 and it's going to be expected every year going forward. Because that's the way we do it. We look, what did we give them last year? Right? Is that our intent?
They're
To-
going
to
to have to
this?
bring a good application again next year.
I would believe that we're jumping this up because of his presentation and his marketing, and he's getting ready for a 60th anniversary next year. So if we can promote more of the Hyde, and like I said, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything negative about the Hyde. I'm just looking forward, right? We're jumping it up 10 grand. And the expectation is next year, they're going to get that additional 10 grand again.
And I think
And
he's
again, and again, and again,
Well,
and again. Is that
not
what
necessarily.
we're signing up for?
I don't agree with that. I think they reach a plateau. If they have a great application, certainly you would give them more money. Supervisor Stroud and Supervisor Hogan.
The Hyde, I know the Hyde and the Chapman and the World Awareness Children's Museum, those cultural attractions have been hurt by COVID. And so I agree with what Mike is saying and his cautionary note. But given the COVID situation and knowing, because I'm active with some of these museums, that they were hurt by COVID, they're still recovering. So I don't look at this as an every year thing. I look at this as, let's keep this organization alive. And after COVID, we'll take another look at this.
Right. I
Supervisor-
would support that as long as we have some mechanism to say, hey, they recognize we're giving you this extra 10 as a COVID relief type of event and not to continue. Don't expect it the year after.
No, Supervisor Hogan, go ahead.
I very much caution this committee from addressing this from a COVID point of view in any way, shape, or form. We have funds for that, and they're welcome to come and bring an ask to the ARPA committee.
Sure.
We need to look at this from an OCTAX point of view. We cannot bring that into this conversation. It's far too convoluted to do that. That being said, to Supervisor Wild's point, perhaps you're right. What we need to change is the expectation. If people want to continue or make a jump like this, they need to bring an expansion of their programming and an expansion of what they're doing to us. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the Hyde this year. So if they're not going to expand next year, certainly they're not going to see another 10 or, another jump like this, but they really did bring it this year. So please, let's leave the COVID out of this.
Yeah, 25,000. Okay, let's go to Improv Records. That 75,000 is way above what we could do anyways. So I'll start with Supervisor Hogan first because she did a lot of her legwork. So
Thank you. I am sorry, while I love their concept, I'm sorry to say they scored very low for me. They were in the 50s and I brought them in at 40,000.
40.
But I would be comfortable with less than that. They're a great added value for the Lake George holidays, but it's in season and it's for profit.
Yes, go ahead.
They're in the middle of the pack for me, and I did not feel like they had qualified for the full 75. I put them at 50,000, which is what they got last year. So I was cheating a little bit there, Supervisor Wild, but I would say anywhere around that number is
Okay,
where they fall
Supervisor
for me. They're in the middle of the summer.
Merliano,
I went with the 50 instead of 75, same as last year.
Supervisor Stroud.
They do have a shoulder event. It's May 27th to May 29th. It's titled The Memorial Meltdown. I thought that was good. So it is helping the shoulder season. But however, I thought 75 was excessive. I had down for 40.
40. And Supervisor Wild.
I had 50, but I would accept 40.
Okay. So how many, show of hands for 40? 1, 2, 3, 4, 40,000 it is. It's consensus right now. Next was going to be referred, Independence Day would be referred back to the city to ask for extra money for that. It's a city one or Queens? Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I believe that unless the ask comes specifically from the municipality, we shouldn't bounce it back. This is not an ask from Glens Falls. This was an ask from the Glens Falls Symphony.
Okay. So do you want to leave it in or leave it out?
I would leave it in.
Leave it in.
I would like to leave it in as well. I didn't score them very high, but they're not asking for much, so I gave them their request, 7,500.
Any other comments?
Uh,
Supervisor Hogan?
Mr. Go ahead.
With permission to address another member of the committee,
Sure, go ahead.
I'm not sure the statement, I didn't score them very high, but I'm giving them their full amount.
Should I take that back?
Nope, I'm just asking you to justify that one. We're trying to take, the personality out of it, right? With the scoring matrix.
Right. So according to my own criteria, they should come down from their request. You're right.
You know, I had $2,500. It's 4th of July. There's fireworks all over the place, up in the lake and everything else. I don't think we're going to be drawing a lot of people from outside the area, but I did want to give them something to support the event.
Supervisor Stroud, do you guys support that now through municipal?
We have in the past supported, we paid for the fireworks. Fireworks are getting more and more expensive,
Yeah.
and they came to us because we were willing to fund those fireworks as part of Queensbury's contribution. But it is a regional activity,
Right.
and certainly this organization is a wonderful organization to have in our area, and we need to financially support them. I went with 5, but I could go with more. If you want to go with the full amount, I'll support that too.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. Could we cut them back and encourage the municipalities to come in with an ask?
That's what I
through
was,
the
that's what I was
195?
looking for first.
Can we live with 5,000 and ask that each, maybe the city and,
I could live with 3,000 or 4,000 and ask that the city or Queensbury come in with an ask through the 195 that we've set aside.
Supervisor Stroud's right about fireworks. Did go up last year. They jumped about $1,000 per show. So I'll take a compromise. Somebody give me a compromise number. 5.
3750.
5.
I'll go with 5, and I would like to say it's more than just fireworks. The symphony event is a big draw to the community and the region. It's not just people who are in Glens Falls. There's lots of, trust me, the traffic is horrendous that night.
No, that's good.
But why do we have a?
Taste of the North Country.
I'm sorry. Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
why'd you wind up with,
Right,
yeah,
we
what'd
went
we-
down. We went down
5,000.
to 5,000.
how much?
5,000. Taste of the North Country. That's a one-day event.
So is the symphony.
And they've never asked for.
There's no room nights up there on that.
Yeah.
None, 0.
And they've always made a profit on this. So I just don't know where they're coming from on this one.
I don't know why they came.
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you, Supervisor Hogan, but go ahead.
To do what? Oh, I go first?
No, to give us your input of,
I gave them a 44. It's very local. It's great for Glens Falls.
it is.
But I gave them a 44, so I didn't award them very much at all. So whatever anybody wants, that's less than what they
I
asked.
think you should refer it back to the town right now.
We're talking about the Taste of the North Country one. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, they were the lowest of my scores as well.
So we want to ask to go back to the municipality and ask the municipality to put in.
My only comment to this before we refer back to the municipality is that they did say this was a one-time request and wanted consideration.
For, you remember what it said in the application? What were they asking for?
We did say it was a one.
They were asking for 20.
No. I mean, what were they going to use the money for?
Oh,
It's
Well,
supposed
they
to be
put-
to promote.
Cost for the event.
Go ahead,
They put
Supervisor.
down their cost is 25,000 and the revenue expected between 60 and 70,000. They
So
were
they're,
going to spend 6,000 on marketing, but their cost was 25, their revenue was 60 to 70. I don't get it.
no.
So we'll take it out.
Yeah, I like that. We could always.
That means
come back-
zero, right?
We could always come back to it.
Lake George Arts and Crafts. Now, this is a profit. He's asking for, we gave 3,000 2021. They're asking for 7,500.
3,000.
3,000.
Yes?
I didn't think they were that low. I would have given them like 5,000.
I gave 5 because they do have to do some advertising and such.
Okay, that's a lot for advertising. Yeah, Supervisor Hogan.
They were among the lowest scoring for me, and I would support 3,000. But I would also make the suggestion to them that they might want to think about moving it to another season.
Mhm.
And that would increase their score with us.
It's same with the barbecue. Are these the same people?
Yes.
And they're asking, they're a profit.
Yes.
And it's on a August weekend.
Okay, Americade is for profit though, so let's not be too hard on them.
No, I'm not being hard, but Americade has a little more sales tax generator than I think the barbecue festival. Anyways, what
What if we give them 3,500 for each?
how about 3 for each?
That's where I was.
3,000.
3. Okay, next one is the dinner theater is, I think is this a new one or no? They got 15,000 last year and they are asking for 31,800.
Did we miss?
I thought
Well, you
they
missed
didn't.
one. You missed
What
one.
music festival?
Oh, excuse me. I
Number
missed.
14.
15.
15.
14 was
Hold on.
3,
Right, we're on 15, right? What the
We're
heck
on
is
15.
Which
15?
one are we on?
15.
Lake George Music Festival,
Aye.
Oh, what-
August. That,
Music festival. All right, sorry
that
about
one
that.
was the guy,
They want 31,800.
yeah.
Wow.
I said same as 21. 15,000.
I had 25,000. Because I scored them in the middle of the pack. Wasn't this the guy who said he couldn't move it out of August because that's when the symphony people are available?
Yeah, this was one that
Mhm.
they're up here visiting SPAC maybe or something.
We puts down
So
the,
wait, 25? Supervisor Hogan,
Thank you. I scored them at a 77 and they came in at 25,000.
25? Everybody okay with 25?
Yeah.
Okay,
And excuse me, back to 14, the barbecue. What did we give them, 3?
3 for each event. All right, the dinner theater. This first year, 12,000 they're asking for.
I thought it should be referred back to the town.
Did it come from the?
Yes, no?
I had 4,000.
Was this the, I'm sorry, I don't have it in my note. This is the one with the play,
Is this at Towers Hall?
well,
this one scored pretty well for me and it's a new event. What did I have?
no, it's,
It's at the
Oh,
Holiday
it's
Inn
not a new
Resort.
event.
It's not the new one. It's not Georgia O'Keeffe.
That's what I meant.
This is Sheer Madness.
Sheer madness. And where, is this at Holiday Inn?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, the next one is Georgia O'Keeffe. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your pleasure? They asked for 12. I think the municipal,
That's what I thought.
But I believe the municipality sent them to us. So at the risk of bouncing them around, I did score them a 46, but I do appreciate the fact that they diversify the offerings that we have across the county. So I scored them a 46 and gave them 5,000 in my mind.
5,000, everybody live with 5?
No, I was kind of concerned. It says it's not for profit, but it's a dinner theater. Somebody's making some money on this.
Okay, 5,000? Is that
5.
5 work for everybody?
I
Yeah.
had 4.
Okay.
I could live with it.
They can always.
And
17.
nearby, far away, Georgia O'Keeffe.
What's our total to spend again? 380?
This was quite a show we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had 5,000.
Yeah, I put down 10.
Lisa, what's our total on this one? Like 380?
This is a big thing.
How'd you score, George,
Potential.
Supervisor Hogan? 5?
I don't know.
I had 5.
I'd like to see this thing take off. I put down 10.
It is the first year and it's like an investment in something that might, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to continue for more than 1 year.
Yeah.
Or is it just this year?
Supervisor Hogan? Nothing?
I'd go with the 10. Think-
Okay.
Give them a chance to get off the ground.
We have 10. We have Supervisor Merlino.
I thought it referred back to the town, but I can live with 5.
Supervisor Stroud.
I put down 10 and it's because this is a really exciting new thing. I want to support this as much as I can. I put down 10.
Okay. Supervisor Wild.
I had 5, but I would consider bumping that up as an investment, in something new.
10,000 for the first shot out of the box. 10,000.
As it's being its first year.
It's a new event. The basketball tournament.
30.
30.
30.
15.
15. Supervisor Bramer.
I think this is one of our signature events and they scored high for me. I would give them the full 30.
Supervisor Hogan.
I scored them at 75. I don't think that their paperwork reflected a lot of overnights, but I could be wrong on that because it seems like the kind of thing that should have reflected a lot of overnights.
Right.
So I was at 20 with them.
Okay.
Do we know if they made a commitment about Octax money in trying to get this back to Glens Falls?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And we kind of committed to them verbally 2 years ago before it was canceled by the state. And to get this back, this tournament left Glens Falls and went to Binghamton. And then they worked very hard to get it back. And we made a verbal commitment to them, I think a couple of years ago to fund this. So I've got to go with the 30, but that's just me.
So according to my notes, they said they had 10,000 attendees, but 300 room nights.
That seems too low.
I'd like to know where those people are staying.
Well, they get on a good year, a very good year. It depends on where the teams are from. If they're local, they've drawn as high as 16,000. On a normal year, it's anywhere between 12 to 14,000 people. And that's without a local team. So that's why I think this is an important event, and it is in March. And I don't know. These are all volunteers, you know, and then the state's made it harder for them to keep this event, and they're supposed to be back for 3 years in Glens Falls. Supervisor Shaw.
Well, I think you just said it, Kevin. We've lost this.
Right.
We've got it back.
We got it back.
And they love the Glens Falls area.
Yep, they do.
We need to show our support.
Yeah. That's why I think we should leave it at 30, honestly. Can we live with that? Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next one is primetime lacrosse. It's a big event.
30,
Brings in a lot of people.
same as last year.
30. Everybody live with 30?
I can live with 30.
30? Okay.
Sandra, are you fine with 30?
I'm fine with 30. When we're done, did the tourism department score these?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think they did. They're trying to stay out of it, let us score them. But I think your scores are coming in pretty close. Wouldn't you say, Joanne? Yeah.
Would you share those scores with us, please, at some point?
After?
Well, I'd like to see how we did.
Yeah.
you know, and I just find it interesting that in all other things, we do defer to our department heads' advice, but in this one,
We got one more event. Let's finish up.
Warrensburg, we're over
Gotcha.
budget, so I have to say 0.
Yeah,
Maybe 10,
zero.
maybe 10.
Did we go with 30 for the lacrosse?
Yeah.
Garage sale is looking for 28.
We got 4,000 left to spend.
4,000 for garage sale.
0.
We got 2,000 left to spend.
2,000 for garage sale.
Kevin, you get the whole shot. Come on.
28.
Yeah.
28.
Where's it
You-
gonna come
where-
from?
Kevin's budget.
Any fun with this team?
Well,
Can't have any
now
fun
we
with
get to
Kevin.
the point where, all right, how much money do we need to trim? And we take a second look and share ideas.
I'm at
I have a total of
406.
406,000
Mhm.
for those.
I just make a motion that we amend the budget.
Hold on, 406. And what, how much did we think that we had?
I believe you said 348,000 was what you were
Okay,
shooting for.
406, 383, I thought it was.
383?
Isn't that what it was, Andrea?
Oh,
I thought it was 380.
383,
But
406.
Lisa, where are you getting 406?
She added up.
Total,
that's what the total we just make.
I was counting too, so let me recount.
All right, so I have a
I had
spreadsheet.
406.
I have 406 as well.
Okay.
What's our target? 383?
Where is that number that says?
348, I think.
348.
380.
We're only 23,000 off. I mean, it's, would amend the budget by 23,000.
Wait, what was our
I
target?
think
though?
we need to know where we're at.
$383,000. That's what I was told. That's
Where
what I
does
wrote
that
down.
come from? Just explain it to me one more time. Where does the 383?
I thought that's what somebody
I thought it
calculated.
was 348, but I don't know, so many
We had
numbers.
600,000.
Well, I'm gonna leave it.
600, I know where it came from. 600,000 minus the 52.5 that we already allocated.
And the 200,000
Right,
for the
minus
future.
252.5.
252.5?
Well, the 200 are the, anticipated for the winter season. So do you cut some of those?
You're right, that's
That's what
348.
we gave.
It's what? Say it again.
347.5.
347.
347,500. So
At 348.
406,000 minus
How much do we need to amend the budget? by?
75,
What is it?
58,500. I'm gonna make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to amend the budget by 58,500.
Yes,
And where's it coming from?
from the occupancy tax reserve.
This would come from the unassigned fund balance, I believe, or reserve.
So can we add to this motion to take a percentage of this windfall and put it into a strategic fund?
Well,
No.
let's just stick with one thing first. So I have a motion and a second to amend these special event funding up by 58,500. Any discussion? Can we vote on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we will award what we agreed to.
I'll make that motion too.
Motion by Supervisor Bramer.
The awards as we went through adding up to 406,000.
Okay,
Second.
second by Supervisor Stroud. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, let's go back to Food Truck Fridays. What are we suggesting with that?
I thought they were gonna go back to the town.
We're going,
We
back-
have 195,000 in the municipal funding.
I just want to make sure.
Okay.
So I don't want them to think that we're, and then the other one was,
Taste of the North Country.
Taste of the North Country. We'll ask them to go back to the, if they need funding, go back to the city
Well, or the city can come.
and
give
ask us
tax
for.
with an ask.
That's, okay, are we all set on that? Everybody's on the same page? Okay. Well, I appreciate all the work. Now, you want to know the scores, huh?
Can you give us the top score down?
How about what we didn't get right?
Well, how about we just read them? And then you can go see if I got these right. Balloon Fest, 92.
Wait a minute. These are your scores, Kevin, or the staff?
If I reveal that, I'll have to, I'm just saying, I'm reading off a sheet.
What sheet?
It's a spreadsheet.
Wait. So you
You have the secret
cheated.
cheat sheet and didn't share it?
I'm not gonna share it. I don't want to influence anybody.
Okay.
But you didn't score it. This was staff.
Oh, no, I looked at some of these. I changed my scores.
All right.
Still duped.
I'm the chairman. I shouldn't be doing any of this. I didn't want to influence.
I spend hours on this. All right.
No. All right, 92, go.
Sensitive.
You
Go.
want me to do it or don't you?
Yes, go, please.
I'm not sure where this came from, but I'm just gonna read them. 92, 95, 80, 59, 83, 61,
Wait, can you read us the, what? you-
Alpha 61,
Okay.
Barricade was 83, Food Trucks wasn't scored, Hyde was 95, Improv was 75, Independence Day wasn't scored, Kiwanis Club wasn't scored, the Arts and Crafts was
Hold
49.
on, Kev. I'm sorry.
49?
Can we go back? You said Independence Day was 0. Kiwanis was what?
Zero.
Zero.
Kiwanis was 0. What about Independence Day?
Zero.
Huh.
Thought it should go to the municipality.
Okay.
Please
Oh, I'm
don't
sorry.
judge.
Yep, I got
Please
it.
don't
Thank you.
judge.
Sounds good.
Barbecue, 49. Music Festival, 80. Dinner theater, referred to the municipality, nearby, far away, referred to the municipality. Boys basketball was 75. Prime time lacrosse was 74. And the garage sale was 92. Those are scored, not to be judgmental, but somebody smarter than me did it. So,
I think we did fine.
does anybody have any more questions about this? And I really do appreciate your effort, all of you.
Nice job, Kevin. It was easier than I
Not to me.
expected.
I really-
Hey, at least we didn't do it in the back room.
Absolutely not. But, absolutely not. Nope. So are we pretty sure we're okay now? Okay. What's on the agenda? I gotta get back to the agenda.
That's it.
That's it?
So I'll need a motion, I'll have to send a resolution request to amend the budget for that amount.
Yeah, but we already did that. Right, Amanda?
I'll get that.
We've covered everything. Okay, and I thought it was a great discussion today by the committee members on ad workshop. We know, that, we're gonna work with the business community a little bit more. We heard that, and I think they're willing to do that too. But we got to allow our tourism department to do their job also. So,
Of course.
so I appreciate that. That being said, a motion to adjourn. So be by Supervisor Strauss, second by Supervisor Wild. Supervisor Hogan, did you have something or just
No,
you want out of here?
yeah.
Oh, I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Nothing new.
Just really quick. Can someone explain what's happening with the Ice Castle tickets and the pre-sale and all of that?
Yeah, I saw that in the paper.
So
I think they're jumping. the
between
gun.
between now and December 12, you purchase a pre-sale voucher. It's $27 across the board. Doesn't matter if it's just $27 for a ticket. You get a voucher. You don't choose a specific day of the week or time yet because they want to see when Ice Castles will actually open. There's a limited number of pre-sale tickets, so it's like a priority thing. And then when they decide Ice Castles is ready to open, those people that have purchased the pre-sale voucher, they're going to email you and they'll say, you go first. You're the first one to choose Saturday night at 4:00, which is like prime time or whatever you choose. After all of the pre-sale people have selected their time, then they open it up to the general public to buy whatever happens to be left. You did ask about a community day.
Yes, that was my question.
Well, we're trying to work that out. In some smaller places, they'll say, all of the residents of this town can come in to Ice Castles for $5. They can't do that with all of Warren County at $5. So they're trying to figure something out where maybe there are a couple of Wednesday nights that they've selected. And I think that it would still be $5. You don't choose your ticket ahead of time. You just go and get in line. And then it would be maybe the first, they're still trying to figure it out because it's a large population in Warren County, but it sounds like it will be either one Wednesday night where it's all locals or a series of Wednesday nights where maybe the first 1,000 people that are local can go in for $5. So they haven't hammered it out, but there will be a Wednesday night somewhere along the line or multiple Wednesday nights when the locals can go. But that would be, not prime time. So if you really want to go with your family on Saturday night at 4 or 5 o'clock, then you might want to get a priority ticket.
Yeah, but because it's not prime time and we are right here, it may be easy for families to just run over there after school or that kind of thing. So
Yep.
I would encourage a series of Wednesday nights. That might spread it out better for them too.
They had considered 3 Wednesdays.
Cool. All right.
Right. So that remains to be seen.
Relative to the first 1,000 or whatever, I will remind you that we have residents that would have to drive an hour. I don't think that's a great idea. It makes it very competitive and disadvantages the further out.
And I spoke with Kyle, the CEO, and he was very understanding that he didn't want people to stand out in the cold for a long time. He didn't want them to be discouraged. You're all excited. Yeah, we're going to go to ice castles. And then you're standing in a long line for 2 hours. So that's why I don't have an absolute answer right now. They're just trying to figure out the best way so that people have a positive experience.
The first whatever is not a good idea.
It could be, that's a nice problem to have, and I'm sure we can work it out. Discussion.
They did say pre-sale tickets are selling well.
Anybody else? We're adjourned, so I appreciate it. Thank you.